Hello, we are rolling. Let's see. So here is your tarot reading. So you chose the Blue Star bag, which has the Universal Weight Tarot in it, drawn by Mary Hanson Roberts. So I used the 9-digit number you gave me to draw one of the tarot cards. I usually like to leave that one till the end to use as a guide or to sum up the reading. And I also used that number that you gave me. You chose deities, so we picked the gods and titans, and then the goddesses and sirens oracle cards. These are the book by Stacey DeMarco, but illustrated by my favorite illustrator of oracle cards, Jimmy Manton. Both the decks are mixed together, and you got a goddess card because it's yellow. I like to draw these in order to basically set a tone for the reading. So let's take a look and see what you got. You got Nuit. You got expansiveness. So, since this is a spiritual issue that you're writing to me about, so the theme is going to be about expansiveness. So where can you expand consciousness? Where can you expand any area of your life? So as we pull the cards, and as I talk about the cards, let's think about expansiveness. Now let me just repeat the question that you sent to me so that everybody understands, anybody who might watch this other than you understands the situation. So you're seeking spiritual help, and you are a bit suspicious of someone who offered assistance. You would like to know if the person is genuine because your intuition is telling you that he has an ulterior motive. And then you gave me some background information. You said someone practiced black magic to harm you a couple months ago. And this person, the person we're talking about now, offered to help you through the healing process. So let's take a look at this. Okay. So I'm going to draw 3 cards for the foundation of the situation. 1, 2, 3. Okay. This doesn't look great. Okay, so basically it looks like, well, you got 2 blocked cards. So the first card we have is the Page of Wands. So pages are basically learners, they're beginners, they're people who are starting out, and this is like this is about wands are the suit of fire, so this is about the passion inside of you, your will, the will at the core of you, your creativity in some aspects, and this was blocked. So now we're talking about 2 people in this reading, so I would say, you're speaking spiritual help. So this, you'll have to figure out if this is really referring to you, and are you basically, is this like the beginning of your spiritual journey? If it is, then I would say that you're having a tough time at the beginning of your spiritual journey in terms of like finding like which aspects of it like satisfy your passions and the fire inside you. Like whatever you're seeking, I think, and whatever you're starting to learn, like if you have choices, since you mentioned black magic, for instance, if you're doing some hoodoo, some conjure work, if you are whatever home, like usually when someone's practiced black magic against you, I would assume that someone has given you some homework to do. So if you are sort of like doing your own kind of homework, I'm wondering here from a learner's perspective, if you need some help in figuring out which aspects of the craft are aligned with your passions. That's one way I would read this card. But since we're also talking about the relationship with your spiritual advisor here, I'm wondering if this could just be an indicator that he's also a novice, or if he's experienced. Now, if you already know he's really experienced or claims to be experienced or whatever, I would say that this doesn't apply to him. But if this is what you're suspecting, it could be that maybe he is still a beginner at his craft and hasn't kind of figured out all of his shit yet. So let's continue with the reading, and it might become, when we draw some more cards, it might become clearer what this is speaking to you. Usually the foundation has to do with the querent, the person asking the question. So I'm thinking that this might be the first thing that I said, but you never know. Now, so basically, like in the situation that you're having right now, your home life, in terms of, your basic, like this card is about the family structure. This is about like material success in your home life, because you'll notice there's a family of 3 generations here. There's a child, there's a grandfather type figure here, and then there's like the sort of like the couple like that have the child, and then this is one of the parents. So you've got 3 generations represented in the same card. You've got pets in the card. You've got these 2 dogs that are like, dogs are always pretty much about joy. And if you look at he has this sort of regal, I don't know what you call it, like a robe on and stuff. He looks like royalty. This guy has like this sort of cane, walking stick, wand sort of thing. They're affluent, right? So this is like the good life. This card is all about the good life. The structure that they're in is opulent. So this is about like achieving material success, like and this is kind of like the epilogue, all of the work that you've been like the pentacles, the scenes on the pentacles are about doing work, like cultivating things, working on your craft in terms of like job and livelihood, and this is the culmination of it, but it's blocked. So in terms of the person who's offering you spiritual assistance that you are suspicious of, I would say that like, okay, so this means like something, and you also mentioned this black magic thing. So I'm wondering if the attack has to do somehow with your livelihood, the happiness in your home, the stability of your home. Pentacles are very much about like conceptually groundedness, feeling grounded, so that because when you go home it's your refuge. Like, are you grounded? Do you have food? Do you have clothing? Your basic needs, are they met? Are you grounded? So that's all blocked right now. So maybe, I don't know if that's the area of attack in terms of the black magic and what you're trying to resolve with the aid of this you're the spiritual person who's helping you, and this is the area of your life where you need assistance that was kind of destroyed. But where it looks like it's headed, though, it looks like there's going to be some disappointment. So this is the 3 of Swords. Swords are like mental energy. They are about the mind. They're the element of air. And this is like, basically you've got clouds, you've got rain, and you've got a heart pierced by 3 swords. So this is usually like heartbreak. This is like something not working out well. So I would say that like, kind of like the overall theme is like, this doesn't look like it's going to work out so well, I hate to say. I'm just going to review your question. You said your intuition is telling you that he has an ulterior motive. So that's interesting. So like water is often about intuition and cups. So we didn't get anything yet to talk about your intuition. And then you said, let's see. I think, yeah, that's about, you didn't say much. So you're worried about genuineness. That was the other thing that you said you were worried about. So worry is all about in your head too, which is Swords. Let's go ahead. The next cards I'm going to draw are kind of like the way I would do it as a relationship reading, because it's about you, it's about another person, and then it's about what's happening between you. So let's draw 3 cards and kind of pick apart the relationship. Like, what's your energy? What's his energy? And what's the energy when the 2 of you cross energies, right? The 2 of you together. So let's draw those 3 cards now. Give me a second here. Okay, this is you. Now we need one for him. Okay. Now let's look at the energy between you. Okay, so this is you. Okay. This is him. And this is the energy between you. So you've got 2 pages now, and both of the pages are reversed. Okay, so your energy is blocked, okay, because it was reversed. So let's just remember that. But the scene on the card, this is another sword. So you've got 3 of swords, you've got the 5 of swords over here. So this, just the scene of this card, well, 5s, first of all, 5s are all about struggle. And this is the element of air. So it's about mental things, thinking. And thinking in excess, to excess, often causes anxiety, often causes depression. So that's like when swords go overboards, that's like kind of like the chronic thing that's happening in our society that I think swords often represent. And for me, from my perspective, since so many people suffer from mental problems, right? So now this scene is about a person who has just been victorious. And if you look at the whole scene, though, there's 2 people who are kind of off in the distance that have just been defeated. So this one has his or her hands, has their face in their hands, right? And so they're just devastated at this loss. And then you have the person who has this sort of gloating look on his face. So like the message of this card to me is always about winners and losers in struggles, and how, you know, you might win or someone might win, but there's a consequence to that. So so this is always a reminder that, like, yay, you won, but like, since tarot cards all have a light side and a dark side, right? So there's definitely victory, a victory of sorts is part of this card, but there's another victory card elsewhere, like the 6 of Wands, that is just a clear victory, like where it's just like it's more of a joyful victory. This is this is like the bittersweet victory. It's like, yay, you won, but at what cost is the message behind this card, right? So and the cost, like, I mean, it depends on how you see it too. Like, you could be the loser as well. So someone could be gloating at you after having lost a battle as well. You mentioned black magic. So black magic, like this kind of thing in life, it's like, well, one person does something to another, and then there's retaliation, right? So like the 5 of Swords kind of is reminding you that when you're using craft to retaliate, that can be a cycle of winners and losers, right? And then, like, over time, who really wins? But so you're in a difficult place right now because this was reversed. So I would say, you know, let's think about how that resonates. Expansiveness being the theme of the reading, I would say that, like, if we're looking at advice, and I'll be very curious to see what the advice card or the guidance card looks like later, but expansiveness, it's like, I think this is like, well, how do you get out of here? How do you get out of, like, yay, I won and you lose, and then, like, in a month it's like, oh, they won and now you lose, right? Now, you, like, he got the major, okay, your helper, was it a he? Yeah, he has you're fearing that he has an ulterior motive. But he got the Temperance card. So the Temperance card to me is really positive. So in the first tarot deck that I ever bought, oh my God, like, wait, what? This is 2018, so I'm like trying to think, like 27 years ago. This card was actually called Alchemy, and I really love that name for this card, Alchemy. If you look at what the angel in the card is doing, he's pouring water between 2 cups. And you'll see, if you can, I think you should be able to see this. Like, if you look at the angle of the 2 cups, that's not real. That can't happen in real life. If he were truly tipping this cup on my right-hand side over here, gravity would make the water fall straight down. But the water is actually flowing diagonally from one cup to the other. So there's definitely a magical aspect to what's going on here, right? Alchemy, to me, is basically a sort of, well, alchemy was like, you know, if you think about, like, one of the legends of alchemy, it was like people were trying to figure out how to turn lead into gold, right? So this is like the act of creation. This is much like this is like making things happen. Not in the same way as the Magician. If you know tarot, like, there's the Magician card, number 1. This number 14 card is more about alchemy in terms of, like, creating because you made balance, right? So there's like a balance, like there's 1 foot in the water, there's 1 foot on the earth. So water and earth in balance here. The balance is necessary for the act of creation here, the alchemy to create what you want. And then temperance, I don't think of temperance necessarily as putting a lid on it, that kind of like calm your temper and temper things down that way. I look at temperance in the way that we use the word for, like, if you're making steel, it has to be tempered so that it's not too hard. It's not so hard that it's brittle and breaks, and that it's not so soft that it bends, right? It has to be just right. All of the elements in alchemy have to be just right in order to get what you're seeking. Or like if you're a food person, like tempering chocolate. You have to like melt chocolate to just the right temperature so that when it dries, it doesn't get all crystalline and gross, or it doesn't, it doesn't lose its sheen when it dries. So in order to get perfect, like, you just have to get things just right, in order to create what you want. And he can create what he wants, right? So there's a crown of success in the background. There's this path that leads into the mountains, and that image of the crown of success like appears in a number of the tarot cards, right? So I feel like, we're not getting, I don't know about the genuine, let me think about that card in a minute, but for right now, I think he has the skill to help you. I think what the temperance card is telling us is that he does have the skill to help you. And I think the crown of success indicates that he could get the right outcome for you too. The other, and just since you said black magic and you used that phrase, like if we're talking about magic, if we're talking about a hoodoo voodoo sort of sense here, or conjure sense, this could be an indicator that maybe one of the things that he might have you do is like some sort of crown of success work. Right, in addition to whatever work he's helping you to like retaliate against the black magic, I think like I would advise, like, just because of the image in the card from a hoodoo perspective, it's like you might want to enhance the actual spell and craft work that you're doing with some crown of success work on top of it, either like a crown of success bath, crown of success candle, something like that, whatever your preferred method of working is. I think that might be a little bit of an indicator there, since it's coming from your spiritual advisor. Maybe think about that. Now, the relationship between the two of you, though, it's a page. So this is like, again, this is a beginner. This is a learner. So this is like, I feel like, and cups are about emotions, right? So on an emotional level, it was blocked, right? You'll notice. So there's a blockage, I would say, on an emotional level between the two of you. That being said, the Page of Cups, even though he's a beginner, like, he's got the fish in the cup, and so fish are often a symbol of prosperity. They're a symbol of abundance and whatnot. So even though he's just a beginner and stuff, there's this element of success here too. So like, it's like it would be like, I don't want to say beginner's luck, but like even beginners can do things well and have a success, right? But one more thing about the card, like if you notice the water behind him, he's standing on this sort of platform or thing, or like a dock or whatever, and the water is very choppy. So what the page is trying to accomplish here, what he's trying to learn, there's definitely some emotional instability in what's going on here, and you have this blocked. So basically, I would say that there's emotional energy between the two of you, and it's blocked on some way, and blocked in some way, and I don't know if the pages are like young and just beginning. They also one aspect of pages is that they have that sort of, like when you're a teenager, what's the word I'm looking for? They have the paradox of both being super like confident and totally insecure at the same time. Like I'm sure, I don't know if you have kids this age or if you remember to like your own high school days, like how like you can basically have bravado, and you can show confidence, but on the inside you can be totally insecure at the same time, like the story of teenagers and stuff, right? There's that element. So on an emotional level, there's this sort of energy between the two of you in the relationship. But I think he does have the skill to help you, though. But for some reason, this emotional thing is what is all blocked. Let's draw another card. Let's draw, like, what should you do? Like, what's an action that you can do here? Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to draw one more card, too. So let's draw the action to do and then what not to do. Okay. All right. So I would say the way I would read, since you're talking about like a magical attack and you're also talking about like working with a spiritual advisor for help, I think the action to take is like, because it's not feeling good, this could be telling you that this is the Nine of Pentacles. I think this could be telling that you got this and you can actually do it on your own, I think. So the way the card is, like, you've got the Ten of Pentacles over here, right? This is the precursor card, the Nine of Pentacles. So she's like, people see her as the figure in the card like as an affluent person. She's really made it. Like, and she made it because she like had it within her to get there. Like, she didn't make it because like a whole bunch of people helped her. Like, she got there, right? So I would say that, you know, and she's a falconer too. So she's not only made it, but she has been able to, like, you know, use her talents to like train a wild beast and charm a wild beast. And since we're talking about magical things here and spiritual things here, I think that's also significant, that you have the power within you to be the Nine of Pentacles. You can be this successful person. The darker side of this card, and maybe this is the action to take. So maybe this, I usually look at the darker side of this card as like a caution, because it, is there another card here with that picture? Well, most of the time when people are in gardens in the tarot, there's usually a way out. Like in this, like he's here and there's like a path into the distance. Like, you know, there's this huge archway into the rest of town here. Like whenever someone's standing someplace in tarot, there's usually like, you know, like at the wall of the garden, there's a little opening, like a little walkway and stuff. But I always see her as being completely walled in. So one of the consequences of having this mastery and having really arrived and having become affluent in all of this, she's alone. And to some degree, she is trapped. And there's this tiny little snail in the card. And I think that also reinforces the aloneness here, because like, yay, you're a snail. So that means you like have a home that's attached to you. And you always have like that the security of like, you know, having your home and your place. But a snail can't escape from his home either. So I think that the nature of like the snail not only having the shell, which is great, but it's kind of also trapped in the shell. She's also kind of trapped in her situation. So that can be like lonely. The cost of this could be lonely, not having support from another person, your spiritual advisor and stuff. But that being said, I think like the successful aspect, I think you can do it yourself. The action to avoid, you got the Seven of Cups. And so since you're working on, what was the word that you used? You're going through a healing process right now. It sounds like you're using magic to do it. And you know, actually, this is interesting because like, you actually used the phrase healing process, and when I hear magical attack, I usually always think about like going back and forth and stuff. So, you know, I maybe I made an assumption over here that, okay, maybe there might not be retaliation, like when we were talking about your energy here. It might just be, you know, the other aspect of this card could be that you're the loser of the magical attack and you're accepting it, and so the healing is really like, instead of head and hands being crying, moving beyond that. So maybe this isn't so much about retaliation. So I'll take that back and reinterpret that one. So yeah, I think you got this, but I think the action to avoid would be spreading yourself too thin. So this guy in this card is like, he's taken aback. There's like 7 cups, like in these clouds. There's all sorts of things to take in this picture. So In a positive way, I say this is being spoiled for choice. When there's so many choices, like, oh yay, look at all these things. Like, you know, I win. You know, like, no matter what I do, I win. But when it comes to choice in terms of an action on an emotional level, this could be being like overwhelmed with the number of choices that you have to try to solve the problem, and that's where maybe you're seeking out this guidance, but it's not working out that well. And the other aspect to this would be spreading yourself too thin. Like when you have 7 things to deal with, on an emotional level, you spread yourself thin. So I would say the action to avoid in trying to do this healing or whatever work you're doing for the healing, I would say don't spread yourself too thin. Like concentrate on specific things and make a choice in order to not be overwhelmed, not working in too many areas. Like, you know, don't divide your energies. I think would be the energy, the lesson there. I moved everything because I was thinking of drawing one more card for you. Oh, so since you're concerned about the ulterior motives, I'm just going to spread out the cards again. Since you're concerned about the motives of this helper, like, I want to draw, like, what does it look like if you work with someone else? So let's draw, like, it's you and him. Let's draw, like, a third party. Like, should you seek out a third party for your magical work? Okay. Oh. Well, you got another major again, too. So he seems to know what he's doing, even though, like, the relationship between the two of you, in order to do it, there's something off here, like, on an emotional level. But, like, seeking someone else's help, you got the Wheel of Fortune in it. It's right side up. So the wheel could turn in your favor if you seek help from another party as well. So that might be something you want to consider here. I know you didn't ask this. It just kind of occurred to me that maybe we should look at it. So consider what it would be to work with a third party. That doesn't mean you have to stop working with this one, right? You could do it in addition. You could do it instead of, but it's something to consider. You can pay a conjure doctor or someone for advice, you know, or for root work if you believe in root working, but if you have like a trusted advisor too that you could work with, I don't know who this might be in your life, but there's other options. There's other people who have the power to help you. So that's really good. Let's go ahead and look at the card that you drew. God, you got a third page. A third page. Okay. So and they're all reversed. So this is really interesting. So like a huge thematic thing is like learning right now, right? Like this is like shouting about needing to learn stuff and being blocked in some sort of way. Or the blockage could be that it's going to take a long time. Or the blockage could be that it's going to be difficult. But in any case, there's definitely like a huge theme of learning here for you, I think, more so than anything else. And in fact, there's one other tarot definition I don't normally use for the page, but I will mention it just in case. Pages often indicate that a message is on its way. So you've got so many of them. Let's just kind of put that on the table there, that like there might be some sort of message coming your way, like some information coming your way. You said that you're the victim of black magic, a magical attack, right? So you might be finding something out. That could be like a subtext of this reading, since there's so many pages here. But this was the advice card. This was the card that you drew by giving me that number. So it's the Page of Swords reversed. So swords are about mind, anxieties, and stuff. And you've got like, I mean, he's like this, like, the scale of this picture is off. So it's like he looks like a giant compared to the landscape here, compared to that tree and the land that he's, like the feet and the land, that, like the feet compared to the land he's standing on. He looks like a giant. And to me, this is also about that overinflated ego of like the adolescent, like the learner, that being both insecure and overly confident at the same time element. These are swords. This is about air. So this is about the mind. This is about learning. This is about mental pursuits. So I think your guidance here is that your guidance for the reading as you're like looking at how to figure this out, you didn't get a whole lot of cups. You got the cup, you got an emotional component to the relationship between the two of you. That wasn't particularly cuppy up here, like in terms of emotions. I think what this is telling you is that, like, you know, as a guide, you can learn on an intellectual level what you need to do to solve this problem and heal. So there's some studying you can do. There's some, like, maybe some research you can do. Maybe the research is if you're going to hire a root worker or a conjure doctor or someone else, or I don't know what's, you said black magic, so it could be anything, right? So whatever kind of, whatever antidote to the original attack you need, like whatever kind of practitioner would be well suited to help you through that and help you rid yourself of the whatever is sticking to you. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So, well, I think there's some research you can do. I think you can learn about what you need to do. This might just be reinforcing this too, that you can, there's also, like, you have it within you to solve this problem as well. So maybe that's the aspect of learning here. But all these pages are beginners. They're not just learners, but they're also beginners. So I'm thinking that maybe this might be new to you. And so the fact that the page is reversed is saying that you can learn how to deal with this on an intellectual level. That means you can, like, study, research, whatever, try to figure it out. But it might take a long time. Maybe that just means that, you know, you're kind of like, this is the first time you've been dealing with a situation like this, or your eyes are being open to what goes on in these situations right now. And now, like, oh, there's all this out there, and now I have to learn it. So it could be overwhelming to you. But I think that this being advice, that it'll be hard work. It'll be a tough slog, but you should consider maybe, learning so that you don't have to be dependent on someone else for help. That would actually tie into the expansiveness here, right? That, you know, this would be expanding your awareness and your knowledge of how to deal with these sorts of situations, how to heal, how to move forward, and all of that. So I think that's all I have to say. This was really interesting reading, actually, and it was a really interesting question that you asked me, so thank you for the opportunity to read for you. I think I hope this was helpful to you and gave you some insight and maybe can help you figure out where to go from here. Take care.